Hello there, good evening. Welcome to Look North. Our top story tonight. Our cities, towns and villages fall silent to remember those lost in conflict. We'll hear from veterans and see the unique knitted tribute in one North Yorkshire village. Also on the programme tonight, BBC research finds warehouses on former coalfield sites now employ as many as worked in the pits 4 decades ago.
I've now been promoted to supervisor, so I've never been with a place that's quite given me as much as what this place has.
And please do look up how residents in the Yorkshire Dales are trying to protect its status as a great place to stargaze.
Well, after the relentless gloom of November so far, look at Pateley Bridge this morning. What a tonic that sunshine has been. But what about the rest of the week? Join me for that detailed forecast.
Hello there, welcome to the first Look North of the week. First this evening, events and gatherings have taken place across our region to mark Armistice Day, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, when the armistice ending the First World War was signed in 1918. Veterans, civic leaders and members of the armed services marked the customary 2-minute silence to remember those who've died in conflict. From care home residents to primary school children, it's an occasion that unites all generations, as Kathy Killick reports.
As the years pass, those with memories of the 2 world wars become all the more precious to our national history. At Wetherby Manor and Anchor Care Home, staff have worked hard to honour the service of their residents who are veterans. Among them, 99-year-old Ivy May Farrell, who was conscripted to the RAF and taught to drive.
I used to drive 7-ton Albions, 3-ton Fordsons and 30 hundredweight Commas. We never drove a light car. It's a wonderful sensation, really, to think, you know, I'm so proud, so proud.
With a lifetime's perspective, Armistice Day gives some veterans pause for thought and a desire to pass on their doubts about armed conflict.
Never ever go to war. I mean, your mother carries you for 9 months and you are born. And you were born to live a life, not to kill somebody else.
There's no deep feeling there. It was all so long ago.
For others, though, memories are more recent. In Leeds, conflicts in Kosovo, Afghanistan and Northern Ireland were remembered as hundreds gathered at the city's war memorial. There were similar scenes in Sheffield, and in Bradford, crowds gathered at the cenotaph to pay their respects to the fallen. From North Yorkshire, children of service families paid their own special tribute, singing in a choir at the Royal Albert Hall on Saturday at the Festival of Remembrance. These children face long parental absences and disruptive moves around the world because of their mums and dads' service. The choir gives them some continuity.
I've moved schools like at least 6-7 times. I've been so much happier since joining the choir.
The choir is really good. The best thing is the friends like Robbie here.
The choir is like just a really great support system, you know, everyone helps each other out, like it is just a big family.
Young and old and all generations in between have their particular takes on this thought-provoking day, and we continue to mark it, lest we forget. Kathy Killick, BBC Look North.
Next tonight, our region has been hailed the capital of warehousing as new figures show a surge in the industry. There are now about 60,000 people employed in warehousing and logistics in former Yorkshire coalfield areas. That's as many people as worked in the pits at the time of the miners' strike 40 years ago. Now, the trend has caught some experts by surprise. Our investigations reporter, Stephanie Miskin, has been given access to one of the country's biggest warehouses in Barnsley.
Right, are you ready, Mum? This is Lauren. A quick drive over the hill from home on the outskirts of Barnsley, and she's ready for a shift at one of the country's biggest warehouses. Newfound freedom, learning to drive after years of dead-end jobs.
Hello. We're off.
The risk of trying something new with flexible hours was simply too good to ignore.
I started off as a warehouse operative, and then I got stepped into doing the administration. I was also the union rep, and then I've now been promoted to supervisor. So I've never been with a place that's quite given me as much as what this place has.
Miles of conveyor belts no longer shifting coal at this former pit site. Now it's fast fashion on order. It's certainly no accident that this warehouse is here, with some of the biggest retail giants just minutes away. It's a huge site, the equivalent of 42 football pitches. And well, you might be thinking the same as me.
And there aren't a lot of people here, are there?
There aren't on this floor, no. So majority of the people are either in the back of trailers, putting the parcels onto the sortation equipment, or in the back of trailers on our outbound. We've looked at ways of automating that, but actually they can't do as good a job as human beings currently. So whilst that still is the case, we'll always employ people to do those jobs.
Warehouses are booming here in Yorkshire. Over the past 10 years, the amount of jobs in this industry has more than doubled in the Yorkshire coalfield area. The latest ONS figures suggest that there are now more than 1,000 warehouses here in this region. And it's little wonder why, with big firms like Every here nestling close to the main arteries here in Yorkshire, the M1, the M18, the M62 and the A1, bringing local jobs and boosting the local economy.
With the continued rise in online sales since the pandemic, it means that people like Maxwell are kept busy.
It does look a mess, but this is the best process. I were in construction at first, but it got built and I only live over the road. Hours are brilliant, 6-2, so I thought, why not? I'll try it. Turns out I enjoy it.
With the rise in employment across the region, it also raises concerns about the quality of work and, in some cases, low wages.
It is very worrying when you hear stories and of people, not being able to leave the workstations to go to the toilet. Certainly, that is something that when we work with employers, we expect, as they should expect, that their colleagues are safe, their colleagues are respected. We just need to make sure that the pay is reflective of the job that's being done, and that people go home at the end of the day in the same condition that they turned up for working in the morning.
Just down the road, Steve's documented the rise and fall of former coalfield areas over several decades and never anticipated such a rise.
Well, 5 years ago, when we first began to identify this significant growth in warehousing employment in Yorkshire, several people were saying to us, but all of these jobs will disappear with automation. It's a flash in the pan. Well, what's actually happened in the following 5 years is that growth in employment in warehousing has actually accelerated.
The rise in employment has been significant in the former coalfields of Yorkshire, with almost 50,000 new jobs over the past 10 years. However, new research shows that more than half of those jobs were filled by non-UK born workers.
So that's only half the benefits is filtered through to local residents. And I can't help but feel that this growth in warehousing has been an important trigger to this major change in the composition of the population.
With the growth of warehousing not showing any signs of slowing down, this industry remains the new successor of coal in Yorkshire. Stephanie Miskin, BBC Look North, Barnsley.
The warehousing capital, who'd have thought, eh? You're watching Monday's Look North, still to come on tonight's programme. Boat hire companies cancel business over concerns for the state of the Canal network. But before that, a sex worker accused of luring a man to his death at a park in South Yorkshire has been found guilty of murder. A trial heard Rebecca Moore acted as bait to entice Sackard Ali to Sheffield's Ponderosa, where he was stabbed to death by rival drug dealers in March. 2 teenage boys have previously admitted murder. Victoria Scher was in court.
It took jurors at Sheffield Crown Court just over 3 hours to find Rebecca Moore guilty of murder. The 25-year-old had claimed she was innocent throughout her trial, but the evidence presented by the Crown painted a different picture. The court heard Moore and 2 teenage boys who were involved in drug dealing set up a plan to kill a rival drug dealer who we now know was Sakat Ali. As part of the plan, Moore rang him on the 9th of March, pretending to be interested in buying drugs and offering her services as a sex worker. The two met at the Ponderosa Park in Sheffield, where the 2 teenage boys attacked Mr. Ali and fatally stabbed him in the upper leg. Moore denied any responsibility for Mr. Ali's murder and told jurors she panicked and tried to hide when she saw the fight break out. It was later revealed that she boasted about setting up the attack while in custody at H&P Wakefield. She's now facing a life sentence for murder and will be sentenced alongside the 2 boys here in Sheffield later this month. Victoria Scher, BBC Lucknow, Sheffield.
An investigation is underway after a Sheffield Wednesday football fan appeared to mock the death of a former Sheffield United player. George Baldock was found dead in a swimming pool at his home last month. At yesterday's derby match between the 2 clubs, a Wednesday fan was seen holding up a sign on his phone that said, "Where's Baldock?" Wednesday have called it appalling and say they're working with South Yorkshire Police on an investigation. A man arrested over the death of an ice hockey player in a match at Sheffield Arena has had his bail extended again. Nottingham Panthers player Adam Johnson suffered a fatal neck injury from a skate in a collision with a Sheffield Steelers player, Matt Petgrave. Today, South Yorkshire Police said a man originally arrested last November has been bailed again until next January. The force says it's working meticulously to understand the unprecedented circumstances in which Adam lost his life. Now, hundreds of people have turned up on a cul-de-sac near Halifax in the hope of spotting a rare bird. Normally found in America, the scarlet tanager has been seen thousands of miles off its usual course in the village of Shelf. Oh my gosh, look at all the people who've turned out there. It was first spotted sat on a washing line in someone's back garden. Since then, keen bird watchers, some of who've travelled hundreds of miles, there's loads of them, have spent hours waiting to catch a glimpse of the bird through binoculars and camera lenses. That'd be a bit of a shock, wouldn't it, if you put in your washing out, you see all those people. Next tonight, a boat hire company that's operated on the Leeds Liverpool Canal for decades says it will have to stop running touring holidays because of the risk on dry and damaged waterways. In recent years, boats have got stuck on parts of the canal due to low water levels or closures of broken locks and swing bridges. The Canal and River Trust say they try to do as much maintenance as they can during the winter. Corinne Wheatley has more.
It's the morning changeover at Pennine Cruises in Skipton, and Zoe is checking this boat over for the final time. It's being retired along with 3 other holiday hires. Zoe says it's now too risky to offer short or week-long breaks because of low water levels and bridge or lock closures, and that repairs on the canal take far too long.
So you can get boats stuck. Not only are the hirers not happy because they're stuck and they can't fulfil their holiday and their requirements, but then you have to then go and sort of let them vacate where they are, but then you can't turn the boat around and put new hirers on where it is because there's not the facilities and services. So you end up sort of cancelling bookings, refunding people. We've sort of been backed into a corner where we've made a tough decision, but to protect our business and our staff and things going forward.
Andrew's just returned from a holiday on one of these boats and agrees the condition of the canals is really disappointing.
So the water was particularly low, about 6 to 8 inches lower than I'm used to seeing on canals, and you can tell from the edge, which made mooring a bit difficult. So in addition, a lot of the locks and bridges were closed, so it restricted what we could do, which is a bit frustrating when you planned a holiday.
And this is the sort of situation that businesses and boaters are worried about. Vessels stuck in the mud at Hebden Bridge after this section of the canal ran dry in the summer. Although the Canal and River Trust said this was down to boaters ignoring warnings not to use a faulty lock. Meanwhile, the Trust has begun its programme of winter maintenance work and a fresh fundraising appeal to help cope with storm damage.
Well, we have a vast job here to look after the canal network of the nation. We need the money to keep that going. The government is not giving us as much money as we would like to see. It's reducing in amount, so we need people to come and support us. We carry out most of these works in the winter to ensure that the holiday season isn't as affected as it could be. Sometimes there's a short-term impact. We're very sorry for that. We apologise for it. It's a shame. but we will be back up and full and running soon enough.
Have you ever done this before?
No, never.
Never? Okay. All right, start off with your keys.
Pennine Cruises say they'll now focus on day hires and trips like this one and add more of those boats to their fleet, but they still want urgent action.
We hope that they see this as a real wake-up call as to actually how much damage they are doing to the businesses, and they need to offer the businesses some help and support. You know, not all businesses can diversify like we are. There are some that will just stop and that's it.
The team hope they can resume holiday hires in a couple of years, but say it all depends on the state of the waterways. Corinne Wheatley, BBC Look North.
Bit of football now, and Sheffield United fans are still revelling in their home win against Wednesday yesterday in the Steel City's first local derby in 5 years. With the details and a roundup of all the weekend's matches, here's Michelle Lyons.
Sheffield derby, I mean, there's nothing that can beat it in the world, is there?
Atmosphere was electric. Phenomenal.
Wednesday I got good tactics. Second half we went for them and really worked hard, and it was a Chris Wilder performance.
I'm just delighted for all our supporters because of what it means to them. It was a tough game. There was not a lot in it. We would have liked to have played a little bit more with control, but we didn't. But we managed to find that little bit of quality that decided to tie.
I think then there was one moment where we conceded the goal after set pieces. It was a bit unlucky.
In League Two, Doncaster Rovers drew 1-1 at home against Notts County with this equaliser from Joe Ironside midway through the second half. Meanwhile, Harrogate Town, Chesterfield and Bradford City all suffered defeats. And leaders York City secured their fourth successive win in the National League with a 5-3 win over Hartlepool. A second goal by Ollie Pearce put the result beyond doubt with a stoppage time penalty. Michelle Lyons, BBC Look North.
We're going to return to Remembrance Day now and a special tribute in a North Yorkshire village. This is Billy Barton, a life-size model of a soldier who sits on a bench in the heart of Bolton Le Street near Malton. Now, he was designed in honour of a former Coldstream Guard and built to remember all those who fought for their country.
I met my husband, he was in the Coldstream Guards, and he was very, very passionate about Remembrance Day and poppies. And it's 8 years this year since he died, so I just feel as if by doing these poppies, you know, it's just a little bit of something for him.
It's got a wooden frame, wooden metal frame, and then covered in chicken mesh, in wire mesh. I measured parts of my body to try and get the proportions right. I used to do it in 1 or 2 hours at a time in the evenings.
I've threaded all the poppies through the chicken wire, and then once I've got a few on, I've stitched them all together so every poppy is stitched together. So it was quite hard work. I've spent hours in here on my own, dressing him and putting his clothes on.
We've all really enjoyed it. It's been good. We've all come together. We've all helped. I'm pleased with how he's turned out. He looks quite good. I think he's quite happy with himself, isn't he?
He'll go away in winter. We'll wrap him up. We'll put him away. Make sure he's warm. Yeah, and then we'll look after him, and hopefully he'll come out again next year, maybe with another thing that we're going to make. Somebody suggested we do a horse next year. A few of us got together, we had a couple of bottles of Prosecco, and we had a naming ceremony for him, and we called him Billy Barton.
What a great job they've done too. Now, finally, we have some clear skies and a meteor shower is peaking overnight. It is the perfect evening for a little bit of stargazing. The Yorkshire Dales has been given international recognition as home to some of the darkest skies in the country. Tonight, residents and businesses are meeting to discuss how to protect and make the most of the National Park's dark sky status. Olivia Richwald was near Laban for us this evening and sent us this.
As luck would have it, tonight is a super night for stargazing because the skies are clear and crisp and the moon looks absolutely terrific. This is one of the best places in the country to view the starry skies. The Yorkshire Dales have been in dark sky reserve for about 4 years. And here at the National Park, they're hosting an awareness evening tonight. And among the guests inside are estate agents, parish councillors and electricians, because they can all do their bit to try and keep the skies here dark. Earlier on, I was speaking to Kate Bell from the Stonehouse Hotel, and she was saying that the hotel is, of course, very, very popular in the summer with lots of tourists coming for the blue skies and the walks, but it's becoming increasingly popular in the winter too, with people coming to stargaze. And she had a the hotel received a grant to try and enhance their lighting, and she was telling me how it's been helping.
We looked at our lighting, how we installed new lighting, what we could do to reduce the lighting that was already in place. So for instance, putting little covers on the lights so that things didn't shine up, they were covered down, putting in low wattage bulbs so they weren't as bright, and lots of work around that to ensure that if somebody did come here, for instance, even though we are a hotel and obviously there's lights on, not 24/7, but a lot of the time they could still see everything that they needed to see when they were out in the garden.
Tonight, guests here at the National Park Centre have been out to view Saturn and the Moon through a telescope led by astronomer Richard Darn, who's been telling me just how special this place is.
The Dales is one of the darkest parts of England. Yeah, we know that because we've done dark sky surveys, so this is a fabulous place. Milky Way streaming across the sky. You don't have to go to Namibia or Australia. You can come to the Dales and you'll see it beautifully, particularly this time of year. We'd prefer the moon not to be in the sky, but the moon, everyone can see it, and you see the way it lights up a beautiful landscape like the Dales at night. It's magical. And we've got planets aplenty at the moment, Jupiter, Mars coming up, and of course Saturn's still hanging there in the sky, just behind me over there, and it's looking fabulous.
Richard was also saying that he himself lives in a very light polluted part of South Yorkshire, but he says even in our big towns and cities we can all do our bit by choosing lighting that is less intrusive, lighting that faces down, lighting that is motion sensitive, and lighting that is, well, less white and bright.
Olivia, thank you. What a lovely way to spend your evening stargazing. Paul is here with us now for the weather view. Clear skies today. First time in ages, Paul, which is so lovely to see, isn't it, that sunshine?
Absolutely. And clear skies tonight for stargazing, so that's great.
It's had the right impact on our moods, but it's also had an impact on other things as well, hasn't it?
Well, I mean, it caused quite a stir on social media when I put the information out about electricity generation. And of course, you know, the last couple of weeks have been overcast. There's not been a breath of wind, and that really has had an impact as to where our electricity has come from. And I think it's, you know, it's fairly interesting if you have a look at this this pie chart that we've constructed, and actually it just shows how we're still completely dominant on fossil fuels. Gas-fired power stations responsible for nearly 60% of our electricity this weekend. Nuclear power and imported power from France and Norway. And if we move this on a little bit, we've got wind and solar only at 6%. So I mean, it's, you know, it's quite an eye-opener. Not only that, because of the current weather conditions, we have been paying the world's most for electricity. Any country in the world, we pay more electricity than anybody else as an industrial user. So I mean, it's, you know, it's quite a topic that gets people wound up.
It's definitely sobering. Tabloids are getting all excited about snow next week. Should they be?
Well,
should we be?
I'm the first to rubbish these tabloid stories, but there is an element of truth in that next week it does look as though we'll see the first cold plunge of winter, and with that there is a risk of some wintry precipitation, but it's too far off to decide where and when that might be, but definitely the first cold spell on the way, so there we are.
It means snow?
Yeah, that I do. I'm just trying to cover my back. Let's have a look at where you can send your questions to me. We've got this super duper QR code where you can, I'll answer any question you want to send to me as long as it's about weather and climate, or you can use that WhatsApp number. Let's have a look at the pictures you've sent in. That's a beautiful one there in Wharfdale. That's a lovely part of the world, Upper Wharfdale, of course, near Grassington. But did you see that sunrise this morning? Thanks for all your pictures. This was Mythenroyd at around about 7 a.m. this morning. So if you've got any pictures you'd like to send to me on X, on Instagram, or the Weather Watcher website. So high pressure in charge this week, as it has been all month so far, but it's a very different setup this week because there's less cloud underneath that area of high pressure. So your headline, variable cloud with some sunshine, not quite the clear blue skies we've had, but that high pressure stays with us. It's a long way off, but eventually it looks like this is going to pull away westwards, and it could well allow that cold northerly to develop late in the weekend or into next week. Right, there's a satellite picture. It's as clear as a bell. You can't really pick it out on this particular sequence, but it's clear out there at the moment. I think overnight we'll see some patchy cloud drifting in from the North Sea. 1 or 2 showers towards the coast, otherwise it's dry. And a widespread ground frost, a big change on the way tonight, even an air frost across the Yorkshire Dale. So tomorrow's high water times in Scarborough just after midnight, Bridlington at 25 to 2 tomorrow afternoon. So a chilly start, partly cloudy skies in the east, the odd shower, otherwise it's dry. I think the best of the sunshine tomorrow will always be across western parts, but wherever you are, even though that cloud will come and go, it's a brighter prospect and there will be some sunshine around. Temperatures not far from average for the middle of November, around 10 or 11 degrees Celsius with that light northeast wind. Looking further ahead then, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, dry and bright with sunny spells. There's a hint of a change over the weekend. It turns unsettled and then a lot colder as we head into early next week. That's the forecast, Amy.
Did you say frost tomorrow?
Tonight.
Tonight, frost.
Yeah,
Gosh, it feels like it's been such a long time, hasn't it, since we've had that
yeah.
frosty feel. It's going to be Christmas before we know it.
Oh, stop
But
it.
we won't talk about that yet. You'll get me setting me off. That's it for us. Tom's here tonight with the late news. Bye-bye for now.